been a lot of debate on the right with this new policy that was put out on Compact Magazine called Make Birth Free. A lot of, I guess, the establishment people were freaked out that the government was doing their job and taking care of their citizens. But as someone who's in the Senate and having the process played out, how likely do you think a policy like Make Birth Free or something similar to it is likely in the current state that we're in?
Yeah, so I shared this article, actually, and I've been explicitly on record as supporting this policy. And
which I thought was wild.
Yeah.
It was like 3 weeks into you being in the Senate.
Yeah. No, that definitely turned some heads. I got a lot of questions about that. But one thing I'll say about this is institutional politics and institutional power really matters. And the fact that a lot of the pro-life movement has gotten on board in principle with this, not necessarily how to do it, but has gotten on board in principle with this, is a pretty big deal. I think it makes it much more likely that it will happen. Two, my view of this is just philosophically, one of the things that I think that our government should be doing is ensuring that people is ensuring that entities, whether it's the government or major corporations, don't immiserate people for decisions that are really outside of their control, right? Very hard to have real liberty in the sense that our founders actually meant it if you can't actually control your own life without being immiserated by somebody, whether it's the IRS or by an insurance company. And I really worry that, Republicans, if we're not willing to sort of accept that something has gone terribly wrong in American healthcare, especially for young mothers, that we've made a big mistake here. So, just a personal example. And as Saurabh said, I worked in technology and venture capital. I'm not complaining about this because the financial hit, but because it illustrates a problem that for the majority of Americans would be catastrophic, which is during, my wife, we have 3 kids together, 5, 3, and 1. During the delivery of baby number 2, my wife chose the wrong anesthesiologist, somebody who was out of network, and we then got a bill for like $20,000 because in the heat of delivery, she chose the wrong anesthesiologist. And anybody who's ever been there with somebody while they're having a baby will recognize you're not really making choices in that moment. You're saying, "Holy shit, this is terrible. Make it stop," right? And that the failure to realize that we can either be on the side of the insurance company or of young mothers is a real failure if we don't make that decision. And I think that we can, and I think that we will. Now, of course, we do have massive budget deficits. And so one good faith question I've gotten from some of my colleagues on this issue, meaning from the Republican side, is, well, this would cost conservatively $40 billion a year, aggressively $60 billion a year. How do we actually pay for this in a world of skyrocketing budget deficits? And of course, my response is, well, we sent about $120 billion to Ukraine, so we can actually save $60 billion and do this thing, even on the aggressive cost estimates. But that's maybe a harder sell for some of my colleagues. But the answer to your question is, I want to do this. I want to figure out a way to make it happen. The critical thing that I have to figure out, 2 things. One is structurally how to do it. Okay. I think some of the Democrats would be fine with doing it if you just fold it into the Medicare program. I think there's some issues with doing it in that way. Second is, how do you pay for it? And I think on both of those issues, we can get to a good answer. And then it's my job to sell it to my colleagues, and hopefully we can make something happen.